Hey, welcome all. Let's talk about one of the interesting topic about LLMs and the RAG. Before that, let's tell me something interesting. Let's take an example. I am reading a book for 20 minutes to you, and then at the end of the 20 minutes, if I ask you how much you remember, research had shown that only the 77 percentage all people remember in this entire 20 minutes, like 20 minutes are 100% of the talk. So that's what we call as an attention span. Like that's what we can assume that we can store in our RAM, like the computer's RAM, right? In the same way, if these LLMs also are having that same attention span, and this attention span is also called the context length. The initial language models, LLMs, have a context length limited by certain size, but for the past 1 year we have been seeing huge increments in the context length. It's well and good. You can see the context length. Increasing the context length means you can send the more data to the LLM. But the challenge is, if you are overloaded the LLM with a lot of information, it might get confused. If you introduced a lot of noise in the data that you have been sending, then LLM gets confused, like the humans, right? If I overloaded you with a lot of information in those 20 minutes talk, and if I included a different topics, sometimes you might forget the one of the topic also, right? And then you will answer a randomly answer a questions, like the kids generate a fairy tale stories, right? The same way the LLM is also do. So that is what's called the hallucination. So that means, how can we avoid this hallucination? To avoid this hallucination, you need to send the data that is exactly that you wanted to give it to the LLM, that on top of that you wanted to generate a response. So your data that is you are sending to the LLM should be the relevance and coherent. So how can we do that one? Let's assume you have a big document chunk, big document. How can you send this big document? Because the LLM is limited by the length, a certain length, right? You cannot send the entire document. So you have to break the document into the small parts. These small parts are called the chunks. So now the challenge is, how do you break it? If we go by our human intuition, like we break by the paragraph, assuming that each paragraph had a certain relevant context or content. There are certain strategies. Like the basic strategy is the break the document by number of the characters, like 1,000 characters or 2,000, 5,000 characters. And with that, sometimes you might break your data, a paragraph in between or sentences in between, and then you will lose the context in those chunks. Like you might have an incorrect content or context in the chunk. So the other way, most popular strategy is the recursive character text splitter. So the idea here is, it will first break the entire document by a paragraph or a new line characters, and if those chunks are more than the chunk size we have specified, then it will go for another level down, like it will chunk by the sentences or pull stops or different kinds of. There are certain break points, depends on those. It will delimit specified delimiters. It will break the data until your chunks are into a certain the size you have specified. this is good, like this is also the second strategy. But the challenge is, how can we make this chunking strategy in such a way that the context of the content that you have been the context of the paragraph will not change, and it will be each chunk will have the most relevant content, like it will not have any breaking contents. So that is where we have to go for an advanced chunking strategies. And I'm going to talk about the advanced chunking strategy, semantic chunking, and the agentic chunking in the next video. Hope you learned something new, and the content landed on you. Thank you.